Mark Carney, a heavyweight in global finance and Canada's next likely Prime Minister, delivered a speech that shook the world. The era of U.S. economic dominance is over. His message was clear and direct: no diplomatic hedging. For a G7 leader to declare the end of American primacy was unprecedented, forcing nations to confront a new reality. Carney's timing, amid global uncertainty and rising geopolitical tensions, made his words resonate even more. The post-World War II system, built around U.S. leadership and open markets, has fractured, leaving a void and urgent need for new frameworks. This isn't just about economics, it's about the very structure of international relations and security. If the U.S. is stepping back, every nation must rethink its strategy. For Canada, so closely tied to the U.S., Carney's speech marks a turning point, a move toward greater independence. The message: Canada and the world must diversify and build resilience as the old order fades. The aftershocks of this bold proclamation will shape global policy for years to come. Carney's words carry weight because of his unique credentials. Former head of both the Bank of Canada and Bank of England, and now Canada's Prime Minister in waiting. He's steered major economies through crises, earning global respect. Now his statements are not just analysis, they're signals of future Canadian policy. When Carney says U.S. dominance is over, it's not theory, it's a warning and a plan. His expertise and new political power make his message impossible to ignore. Carney's speech reflects a growing global sentiment. U.S. unpredictability has made allies question American leadership. He's given voice to anxieties that have simmered worldwide. By stating the old system is finished, Carney compels other nations to face this new reality. The messenger is as important as the message. His authority demands attention. Policymakers everywhere are now forced to consider how they'll adapt. Carney's words are a catalyst for global change. The world is listening and preparing to act. Carney's speech included a blunt statement: the system of global trade anchored on the United States is over. This wasn't a prediction, it was a declaration of the present. The post-war framework of US-led alliances and open markets, he argued, has collapsed. For Canada, this is a seismic shift. Decades of policy built on US partnership are now in question. Carney's message: Canada can no longer risk its future on an increasingly unpredictable neighbor. This isn't just about trade disputes, it's about a loss of shared values and trust. The trust that once underpinned the US-Canada relationship is damaged, forcing Canada to seek new paths. Carney's call is for action: diversify, build resilience, and prepare for a more fragmented world. If the old anchor is gone, nations must find new moorings. For Canada, that means less reliance on the US and more global engagement. The era of comfortable dependence is over. The global shift Carney describes is rooted in years of US policy choices that have eroded trust. Trade wars, sudden tariffs, even against allies, have disrupted supply chains and created uncertainty. The US has withdrawn from key agreements, signaling that its commitments are no longer guaranteed. This isn't about one administration, it's a persistent trend. Allies now see the US as unpredictable, making long-term planning risky. America, once the bedrock of stability, is now seen as a volatile actor. This volatility discourages deep integration and pushes countries to seek more reliable partners. Decades of trust can be undone quickly when actions defy expectations. The result: global instability and a crisis of confidence in US leadership. Nations are building safety nets, diversifying trade and reducing dependence on the US. This is not just about isolated disputes, it's a fundamental reassessment of risk. The world is recalibrating and the US is no longer the automatic center. As US reliability wanes, countries are forging new alliances and strengthening non-US ties. Canada and Mexico are deepening their economic relationship, less focused on Washington. In Asia, Japan and South Korea are building closer trade links, even with China, despite security ties to the US. The EU is expanding partnerships in Asia and Africa, seeking a more balanced global footprint. These moves aren't about isolating the US, but insulating against its unpredictability. China is capitalizing, expanding its influence through trade and investment worldwide. The scale of China's economy makes it a central player in these new networks. Countries are acting pragmatically, protecting their interests in a world where old certainties are gone. New alliances are a rational response to risk. The world is adapting to a less central, less predictable United States. The global realignment has real consequences for the US. The dollar's dominance as the world's reserve currency is under threat as trust in US policy wanes. Investors are turning to gold and other safe havens, signaling declining confidence in dollar assets. If demand for US debt falls, borrowing costs will rise, straining the federal budget. The era of cheap, consequence-free borrowing may be ending. Efforts to revive US manufacturing face headwinds. Tariffs raise costs and provoke retaliation while alienated allies buy less. Manufacturing success depends on open global markets, not isolation. American consumers could face higher prices and slower growth. Tariffs act as taxes, reducing purchasing power. Rising borrowing costs and shrinking export markets could lead to stagflation. Economic anxieties are mounting, with recession risk rising. The US risks a period of global economic isolation. The world's shift away from US centrality is already reshaping America's future. Nations are preparing to move forward without relying on US leadership. This isn't anti-Americanism, it's pragmatic self-preservation in an uncertain world. The old order, built on American stewardship, is seen as unreliable. Countries and blocs are diversifying partnerships. EU with Asia and Africa, intra-Asian trade, Canada-Mexico ties. These are real shifts in trade, investment, and diplomacy. The message, relying on one dominant power, is no longer safe. Global markets have lost trillions, reflecting deep unease. Nations are building their own stability, forging alliances that work, even if the US turns inward. The world is learning to thrive in a multipolar reality. Carney's message is a call to action for Canada: pursue economic independence and resilience. Canada must expand trade beyond the US, strengthening deals like CETA and seeking new partners in Asia and Latin America. Diversification is key to cushioning shocks from any single partner. Building resilience means investing in domestic industries and innovation, making Canada globally competitive. Carney envisions a more self-reliant Canada, ready for global storms. This includes investing in critical infrastructure, especially in the Arctic, to secure new opportunities and challenges. Carney's assertive stance, responding firmly to US tariffs, signals a new era of Canadian sovereignty. Cooperation with the US will continue, but dependence will not. Canada is preparing to chart its own course in a changing world. Carney's declaration, "We are masters in our own home," signals a profound shift in Canada's self-perception. This is more than rhetoric. It's a commitment to act in Canada's best interests, not just follow the US lead. The long-standing asymmetry with the US is being challenged. Canada will push back against overreach, redefining the terms of engagement. The new approach is proactive and assertive, using economic and diplomatic leverage to advance Canadian goals. Diversifying trade is not just defense, it's a strategy for global influence. Agreements like CETA and new global partnerships will reduce vulnerability. Carney's message is foundational. Canada will build resilience and independence, confident in its ability to thrive. The rallying cry Canada will shape its own destiny, guided by its own values and interests. Carney's speech marks a crack in the US-led global system. The trust that underpinned American leadership is damaged. Can it be restored? The world is moving on, building new frameworks and alliances. For the US, regaining trust requires more than policy tweaks. It needs sustained commitment to multilateralism and predictability. Allies are wary of US policy swings with each election. Other nations aren't waiting. They're diversifying and building alternatives. The US can no longer dictate global terms unilaterally. This is a moment for American introspection and adaptation. The answer to whether the US can rebuild trust will shape the future global order. The world may already be turning the page, looking beyond a single superpower.